Okay, welcome everyone to video number 7. This is percents part 2. Part of percents part 2 is going to be real world applications of percents. So when you see percents in the real world. Whenever you hear the words or see the words discounts, sales, markdowns, percent of prices, anything about that, percent off, prices are going to be going down. So any of these words, we're talking about our price going down in some way. So here's an example. If you see a shirt in a store, it's 20% off, and the original price is $27.50. I'm going to show two different ways to solve for your new price, your sales price, or what you're going to pay. One way is to take this 20% and to times it by the $27.50 to figure out your discount. So if I do 20%, maybe we have to change that into a decimal. So 0.20 times $27.50. Okay, I'm going to get $5.50. Okay, this means that I'm not going to have to pay $5.50 of that amount. So I'm going to go back and take that $27.50. And I've got to subtract away that $5.50. Okay, which means I'm going to be paying $22. Okay, another way to see that same kind of problem is to think about the fact that if you get 20% off, you don't have to pay 20%. That means you're going to have to pay the other 80%. So again, if you get 20% off, that means you will pay 80%. Okay, well that's the case. We can use a percent proportion to get that $22 a different way. So here's our proportion. X over $27.50 equals 80 over 100. Okay, if you cross multiply here, guys, or use scale factor, whichever way you want to solve for proportions, you're going to get the same exact thing. X will equal $22. Okay, another application of percents is when our price is going to go up. So whenever you see the words markups, tax, tip, commission, bonus, all those different things are going to make our amount go up. So here's an example. Say you go to a restaurant, your bill is $35, and the waitress or waiter says you've got a tax of 5% and a tip of 15%. Well, let's figure out what the amounts would be. And remember, we're going to be adding it back to it instead of subtracting like we do with discounts. So $35 times 0.05. Remember, 0.05 is the same thing as 5%. If that is hard for you to remember to move the decimal over two places, you can also do 35 times 5 over 100, because percents are always out of 100. Okay, either way, you should get $1.75. Okay, so that represents our tax. Same deal for tip. Take our $35, times it by 15%, so we could say 15 over 100, or 0.15. Okay, and that's going to equal $5.25. Okay, remember this is a markup, meaning our price is going up. So we're going to have to add these things back to our $35 to get our total. So 35 plus $1.75 plus $5.25 equals a total of 42. Now you can also use proportions if you want to. So if you prefer to solve for tax and tips separately with proportions, you can do it that way. So for just the tax, our proportion would look something like this. X over 35 equals 5 over 100. I need to set up a separate proportion for the tip. That would look like this. X over 35 equals 15 over 100. Again, that's going to get you the same amounts. It'll get you $1.75 here for your tax.
Tamia Brooks, please come to the front office. Tamia Brooks, please come to the front office.
And $5.25 for tip. Okay, a new formula for you, simple interest. This is another real-life application of percents. Here's the formula. Interest equals P times R times T. Here's what those things stand for, so please write those things down. I stands for your interest. P stands for any one of these things. You're going to see all different types of words. Basically, it represents the money that you start with. So your principal, your deposit, or the amount that you loan. Rate, that's going to be given to you as a percent. But you're going to see to put in the calculator, you're going to have to do some changing there to make sure that you put it in correctly. T stands for time, but it always has to be in years. So if it doesn't give it to you in years, you've got to change it to be in years. So here's an example. Our deposit is $500, our rate is 5%, and our time is 6 months. So let's use that formula. I equals P times R times T. Always write the formula first. So let's start plugging in. Our principal is 500. So that's going to go right underneath the P. Okay, our rate is 5%. So remember either to put it in as a decimal or as a fraction out of 100. So I could change it to 0.05. I could also use 5 out of 100 times, and be careful here, 6 months. Well, that's not years. It's 6 months out of 12. So either use 6 over 12, or we also know that 6 months is half of a year. So if you use 0.5, you should get the same answer. So if you plug all these things in, 500 times 0.05 times 6 over 12, you're going to get your answer. In this case, it's $12.50. That's how much interest you're going to be charged or earn, depending on the context. Okay, one more example for simple interest. It says Sue wants to buy a car for $8,500. She's going to get a loan with 6% interest for 5 years. How much interest will she pay? So let's write our formula. Interest equals principal times rate times time. In word problems, you've got to identify what number goes where. So when it talks about buying the car and getting a loan, that's talking about your principal. So I'm going to put $8,500 for my principal. Okay, the rate is always given to you as a percentage. So that's your 6%. So I'm going to put that in as either a decimal or as a fraction. That's 6 over 100 times the time. That's the 5 years. Okay, all of that together is $2,550, which means that Sue's going to have to pay for her car, but because she's got a loan, she's also going to have to pay that amount as well in interest.